Good morning, everyone in New York, and thank you for joining us, especially since it's pretty short notice. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate your time. This is the SUNY DSP microcredential evaluation webinar. So we're going to introduce ourselves. Our goal for today is to walk you through to give you an idea of what we as the evaluation team of this initiative are going to be doing with the SUNY campuses that will be taking part in the initiative. So just a heads up, this webinar will be recorded. We will also provide slides and the materials that we'll be showing you today after the webinar. So no problem if somebody could not be here or has to jump off early or anything like that. Also, Sarah and I are going to be available for questions, both during the webinar and afterwards. Don't hesitate to ask us anything, almost anything. All right, why don't we get started? So welcome to the webinar. Welcome to the evaluation. My name is Julie Bershatsky. I am part of the University of Minnesota team, Institute on Community Integration, that will be conducting the evaluation of the SUNY DSP microcredential initiative in New York. I'm a methodologist, data geek by background and inclination. I'm also the Director of Community Living and Employment at the Institute on Community Integration at University of Minnesota. And I am leading all of the evaluations of the multiple New York workforce initiatives that actually Allison is going to give you a little rundown of, including this one, including the SUNY microcredential evaluation. So remember me, and then remember my colleague Sarah Hall, who will actually be working with you closely on this particular evaluation, on this particular initiative, and I will pass it to Sarah to introduce herself.
Yeah, hello. So I am Sarah Hall. I'm a researcher at the Institute on Community Integration. And so, yes, I will be the one that you'll be contacting with the data, with questions, and I am really focused on this project. I do research with social inclusion of people with disabilities and also with organizations. I've done a lot of consultation, training, and research regarding organizations and DSPs. I do have a background as an associate professor, so I am excited to get back into this work a little more. And so keep it in mind, if you ever have questions, let me know. All right.
All right, thanks for the intro. And then before we actually launch into sort of talking about what we'll be doing with all of you, we wanted to set the context a little bit because, of course, the microcredential is only one of the multiple workforce initiatives that are happening in New York. So Allison Pingelski, Associate Commissioner, kindly agreed on her day off, mind you, to provide a little bit of context and just give you an idea what else is happening in New York and how this initiative fits into everything else. Allison, on to you.
Good morning, Julie. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to take a few minutes to set the context for all of the work that's happening with regard to credentialing DSPs in New York State. Critical part, but it's one of several initiatives. So we started our grant initiatives with the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, NADSP, who many of you are familiar with now because they set the standard by which your curriculum was accredited. NADSP is offering 31 organizations opportunities to get their direct support professionals credentialed. So they are offering DSP 1, 2, 3, and frontline supervisor to over 2,500 direct support professionals. They've been started for just over a year. We just celebrated a year anniversary with them, so it's really exciting. And they've been successful to date in certifying over 500 direct support professionals. So that was a really nice milestone to reach, to be a quarter of the way there, or a fifth of the way there, because we're a little closer. And so I've been going around the state talking with provider organizations about the opportunity to get credentialed, talking with direct support professionals who are actually participating in the program, and really getting to understand from their perspective how it's impacting the work that they're doing. And so OPW, when we started these initiatives with SUNY, with NADSP, and with the BOCES programs, our intent was to make in a way that they could apply them in their work every day and their interactions with individuals, and that they really felt a sense of professionalism in the work that they were doing. So it's great when OPW announces those goals, but it's even better when you hear from the DSPs themselves that that in fact is the experience that they're having. And they do in fact feel like they've learned things that maybe they forgot, but they also feel that they have had an opportunity to apply this doing with SUNY. We are working with our high school and BOCES partners, and some of you have already made connections with them as well. Because we're hoping to build the pipeline of high school students, and we're hoping that those students actually have a pathway into the SUNY system for higher level education, and they would build on the direct support education technical assistance contract that is allowing us to
I think we just lost Allison. Sorry about the technical difficulties. There seems to be a little bit of trouble of connecting there. Allison is back. Hi, Allison, are you back?
I
We can't hear you at all at this point.
Where did the okay, Julie, I don't want to hold you up from the presentation, so if you still can't hear me, I will send a summary of the projects out to the group.
That sounds good. Let's do that. I think you gave a nice beginning to the overview, so we can follow up with the group and give them more context later. The one thing I will say on behalf of Allison that she was going to stress at the end of her context setting is the importance of evaluation and providing data. One of the reasons that the evaluations, independent evaluations, are built in as part of the initiatives is to demonstrate that these things actually work, document how they're being implemented, and then hopefully demonstrate the effect. So that can be extended, the initiatives can be expanded going forward, also some lessons learned, and and also for New York to sort of become a leader in this area in a demonstrable way. So it is important. The evaluation piece, what you are doing is important. The evaluation piece is also important. So we're going to continue, and just real quick, you know this because you'll actually be doing this, but the sort of the overarching objective of the SUNY DSP microcredential is to enable both new DSPs and existing DSPs to secure certifications, so earn certifications, and earn college credit toward a degree if they so wish. Under that overarching objective, what the sort of the sub-objectives that you'll all be working on is actually developing the microcredential and making sure that they meet the accreditation, NADSP's accreditation requirements, right? Also, they should be stackable to some kind of a degree. The second thing that you'll be doing is collaborating with OPWDD and provider organizations, so your local provider organizations, to offer an internship, aka work-based experience, to students who are not incumbent workers at the moment. So students who are not currently working as a DSP, they should be offered a work-based experience as part of the microcredential. The couple of other sort of sub-objectives is tuition assistance and wraparound services and student success supports. Those will be should be provided using OPWDD funds. And then finally, administering incentive payments to those who complete the microcredential, earn certification, and who are not receiving that incentive payment through a different avenue. The key outcomes I would expect to see as a result of the microcredential program is that after completing the microcredential, students will be employed as DSPs or frontline supervisors. That's the ultimate goal, and retain their employment. That's the piece that we'll actually be evaluating. There are other outcomes that will not be directly part of our evaluation, but that we'd expect the initiative to lead to. And that includes the workforce becoming more competent and gaining increased recognition. And so professionalization of the workforce. And that people with disabilities themselves who receive services and supports from this workforce will have better person-centered support, quality person-centered support. So those are the objectives of the initiative overall. The activities that you as the SUNY campuses will be involved in as part of that initiative. And again, this is a very just high-level summary that all fits on one slide. Obviously, you'll be doing a lot more than that doesn't fit on one slide. But as a summary, you'll be developing the microcredential. You'll be mapping the microcredential to NADSP requirements, setting up internships, aka work-based experiences, delivering the actual microcredential, so implementing it with wraparound services and tuition assistance. And providing info on enrolled students to OPWDD. This is for those incentive payments. And then finally, and for some reason this got cut off from the slide, but also important, and in fact, it was so important that it was highlighted and bolded. You'll also be providing evaluation data to us, to Sarah and me, as part of this, so we can track the implementation and track outcomes. Next slide. So what are the objectives of the evaluation? So of our piece that we'll be doing with you. One is a sort of just to say again, this is an independent evaluation. We're an outside party, so we want this to be conflict-free and really truly independent, which is why we've been hired. So independent evaluation, independent of you and independent of OPWDD. First purpose is to document the implementation of the micro-credentials on your campuses. And then the second purpose is to evaluate the impact. And that is in terms of certifications earned, employment, and satisfaction. Results of the evaluation will be provided to you all and to PWDD. Those results, that report will also provide recommendations for future potential future development and implementation of the program. Important to note that your campus data will remain confidential, meaning that we'll know who you are, we'll know exactly what's happening in your program. Sarah and I will, but in terms of what kind of information will be included in the report, the goal here is not to gauge which campus the program works better in. The goal here is to just document the various ways in which it is being implemented and gauge the impact. So your campus will not be identified in the final evaluation report. So I will pause here before passing it to Sarah, who will actually talk about the evaluation approach, to see if there are any questions so far. Please put your questions in chat and or Q&A, and just as they come to you, and we'll address them as we keep talking. All right, looks like there are no questions for now, and Sarah, on to you.
All right, great, thank you. So now that we have reviewed the objectives, let's dive into the approach of our evaluation. Now, this is the big picture look again, and we're looking at the entire initiative for the micro-credentials here. And so the data that we're going to be collecting includes like our team notes. So Julie and I, anyone else on the team will be keeping notes throughout the process. And then also the SUNY initiative coordinator. And so some of you have been working with Cindy Proctor, but the coordinator's going to collect data and then make sure that we have the correct data and that it's also de-identified as well. And so like when you're developing your micro-credential, you have that accreditation submission form, you have the crosswalk, and then also she does the provider agreements. And so to make sure that they're on the same page as well. And so we'll be collecting some information from those forms. Now from the students, at the end of each academic term, they'll have a student experience survey. So that's just kind of a short satisfaction survey to see their experience or anything we can learn from them as well. And then the provider organizations. So these are the organizations that will provide the internship, the work-based learning experiences. They will also have a satisfaction survey, so the experience survey. And then about 6 months after, they'll have a follow-up survey. So we'll collect a little more information on numbers, like how many people were hired, how many people continued to work with you, and how many maybe left the profession. But for you, we're really going to focus on today the SUNY campuses. You have 3 main things that we'll be working on each academic term after you've developed your micro-credentials. So we have the start worksheet, we have an end worksheet, and then we have the program administrator survey. So those are our 3 main things we're going to keep thinking about after you've developed it. And we'll go into those a little more down below. And we've really worked to make it efficient, to really minimize your efforts so that you can kind of focus on teaching, because I know your time is very valuable and you have the students right there. Okay, so.
All right, I'm just going to pause for 1 second. Katie Moore has her hand up. Katie,
Okay.
did you want to ask a question?
I think I hit that by accident. I apologize.
Okay.
Well, never mind then.
I think it was just a high five. So one question you might have right now as we begin this is who should be involved? So we are looking for, we might call them our micro-credential coordinators at each campus, but it's that person who is going to to kind of be our point person, somebody who we will be contacting. And so I will be the one who's really communicating the data collection, sending information. You'll send it back to me. If you have questions, you would ask me. So who's your point person for the evaluation activities? Now, you might have one person for the micro-credential coordinator, or you might have two, maybe three, because that person will want to know what's going on throughout the program, have access to the information. And so that's like student enrollment information, completion data, maybe student demographics. And even like the internship placements. So we'll need to have that kind of data. So if one person is there who kind of oversees everything and has access to that data, wonderful. If you have 2 or 3 on your team, that's great too. And within that team, we'd like to have a point person to make sure that we keep in contact throughout the way. Okay, and so at first you're developing your micro-credential, and some of you are underway, you're doing it right now. When you're developing your curriculum, there's a couple documents that you are submitting to the SUNY Initiative Coordinator, and that's the accreditation submission document. And of course, it's just information on what are your courses, what's the program, looking at the content, and then the crosswalk as well to make sure that the content of the course matches the NADSP requirements so that we can make sure what we're teaching will meet the requirements for accreditation so that those students can become accredited. And so you submit it to the coordinator, and it's of course completed before you're able to offer the micro-credential. And it's needed for each one. And so you might start out with DSP1 until you'll do the process for that. But then with DSP2, you'll go through that process again. Once it's set up, just like other curriculum, you're good to go for this part. Okay, so you've set up your micro-credential. The academic term has started. You have students coming in. The first thing is the START worksheet. Now this, I will show you this after I describe it a little bit, just so you have a little heads up. This is just some basic information when the course is starting. And it's, how many students are enrolled, the demographics, the supports that are being offered or plan to be offered, any assistance that has been provided already with maybe tuition, any fees, books, whatever. And then a list of providers that are lined up to support students with an internship. We think it'll take about 30 minutes with maybe an hour prep just to collect all the information, especially the first time you do it, making sure you have everything. And we would like this within the first 30 days. That will give you time for students to come in, to move around. They first day of class, things change, right? And so it gives you time to let that settle down. You'll better know the number of students and have that information. Now let's look at this first. I'm going to pull it up. Okay, so this is what the worksheet looks like, and it's just a Word document. I will email it to you. You can simply fill it out, email it back to me. We start out with some contact information right up here at the front, and then it just has questions such as, at the beginning, was there marketing done at your campus or college? There might be some for the larger, we've already have that documented, but you specifically, did you do any marketing? If so, please just describe that briefly. And then looking at student assistance. And this is things such as the tuition assistance, books, fees, any funding that you provide to students, you just describe it right there. And then the third one, looking at the different supports for students. So if there's any student success supports, any kind of supports you're giving, any wraparound supports to really support students to be in the class, to excel in the class, any of those, you would describe it below. And then looking at student enrollment, and that is just a plain number of students. So You might just have one class, DSP1 this semester, or your first semester whenever it starts. Just enter the number of students. And then the next one, we're looking at demographics. Now, these are demographics that you are already collecting. Maybe it's something that you collect when they join the college, they join the program, anything you're collecting. So it could be the race, ethnicity, gender, age, disability. You know, are they high school, adult learners? You know, what was their previous education level? You might collect all of that. There might be something that you don't collect, and that's okay. We just want all that information you have, and we want it in aggregate because we don't want to be able to identify any students at all within this. And you can submit it any way you want. You can put it as an attachment. You could type it in here. You can put a chart. You can copy and paste a screenshot from your computer. Whatever works for you. If we can see that information and collect it, that works for us. We have an example of just some enrollment demographics there. It doesn't have to look like that, but it could. All right. And then also looking into, so have the names and emails been sent to OPWDD? We need that to get the NADSP e-badge account for everyone. And so we wanted only the stuff we had to have. So just the name and email. And this is where your classes, your internships are preparing them for accreditation. So this is to get them into the account so that they can show that they've done it. They can show what they know in order to get accreditation. So just adding the date when you sent that information along. Now this one looks huge, but you might have one course. And so you will only fill out one of these. We just would like the number of students enrolled in whatever course it is. You'll have the course number and the title of the course. So we can track, we know which one it is, and the number of students. You might just fill out one line. If you have many courses, you'll fill out some. Once you get DSP1, DSP2, then you'll just keep adding along the way. And the last part, or the second to last, is just looking at internships, listing the service provider organizations, just so we know who you're working with in that academic term. And then the other is just anything else we didn't ask, anything we should know, it could even be questions you have, but anything else that would help us in the evaluation. So if you have questions with that, we're here. Let us know. If there's something where you do something a different way, we can work with you and we'll get that data. All right, so let's move on. So this is the start worksheet. Then we have the end worksheet. This is going to look very similar. It's similar, like we also think it could take about 30 minutes to complete, maybe an hour to get everything together. We would like this completed within 60 days of the academic term ending. And so that gives you time to collect all the information, make sure that it's finalized. And it does include similar information, but now we're confirming who completed how many completed a course or the internship, how many achieved certification, used supports, received that tuition assistance or the bonus. That's the incentive pay for this initiative. And so that one will look very similar. It'll be a Word document again. We'll email it to you and you can just email it right back. Okay. So along with the two worksheets of just collecting that data, we want to know what's working and what's not working. What do you think about this? And so one thing we have is the micro-credential program administrator survey. Now this is for that point person and that team, and one person can fill it out. If you would like to get the perspectives of others, maybe there's two of you who have been working together with us to collect data and you both want to put your perspectives in there, that's wonderful. But we will only be able to send one link to everyone, and so you can kind of collect that. We'll send it to the point person. It should only take about 15 minutes, but we want to know, how satisfied are you? And, what things should we be learning each academic term from you within this? Okay. Now, also as a note, when we wrap up these things, we do want names and emails of all students to be sent to the SUNY Initiative Coordinator. And that makes sure that we can send their satisfaction survey to them and that they can get everything. And so we would love it if you would encourage them to complete that survey. We want to know the perspectives of students, what's working, what's not, what do you feel, about your experience here, so that we can continually learn like we do. And so if you could encourage them, tell them that that's coming up. They will have 60 days to complete it, but again, it's going to be a short survey. It should be probably around 15 minutes like yours. And so it's very helpful and hopefully doesn't take much of their time. Okay, so as a reminder, as a review, we have two purposes. One, document the implementation, and two, to evaluate the impact of the DSP microcredentials. The results will be provided to OPWDD and you at SUNY campuses. And it's just to help see what we've learned from the implementation, what we've learned from the results, and to provide recommendations as well. As we've said before, I think Julie was really good in describing that your information will be confidential. We won't identify specific campuses. We won't identify students. We will keep information in aggregate form so that you feel free, students feel free, and being very honest and upfront about the information so that we can really learn from this and continually improve when we do this. So we'd like to take time now to see what questions do you have at this point?
And there have been some questions that were coming in the Q&A box that I have been sort of responding to as they come in. Maybe we'll start by, I'll just go over those and see if there are any additional ones, so that if anybody does not have a chance to see them. So the first question was about the student experience survey and whether that needs to be run by your IRB. My response was, you shouldn't need to, but I want to confirm. So Sarah and I will confirm that to make sure, but there should not be a need.
Yeah. Yeah, for us, it's an evaluation and not a research study. And so it might be similar for you, but we will confirm.
And we're not going to be the ones who will be contacting students. We're not going to have their names. We're not going to have any their emails or identifiable information about them. It's going to be done by you. So again, we will confirm, but it should not be an issue.
Right.
Second question was, if we know whether DSP and microcredentials in general have HIGAS or CIP code associated with it. I am not 100% certain. So if others know, please chime in. But I do, however, know that part of the issue that's driving the workforce challenges is in this field is the lack of a standard occupational code for DSPs, period. So that would go, that would probably go the same way for the other types of codes where DSP does not have a code to itself. That's actually one of the problems. That's what we're trying to change. That's why we're trying to professionalize the workforce. Okay, next question was about the term START worksheet that Sarah walked through. For question 7, that was a question about the number of students who are enrolled in each course. So for question 7, if a college has more than one section of the class, say 3 sections, should all 3 sections be listed separately, or should they all be combined into the data provided within that course? I think from our perspective, Sarah, chime in if you disagree. I think from our perspective, we don't need to know section by section. We just want the total number of students enrolled in the course across sections. Sarah, would you agree?
I would agree, but if there's 3 sections, I think it would be helpful to know that, just so we know when we're looking at how many students per section. And so we can kind of average it out. So they can be combined, but just let us know that, oh, there's been 3 sections or 2 or 5, whatever it is. 5 would be a lot.
Okay, thanks. Last question that I have here. Our academic courses begin in less than 2 weeks. Congratulations. I know you're not busy at all. Will we be sending evaluation documents to the programs today? And thank you. Yes, we will. Today, we will send the slides, copy of the slides, and that start worksheet that Sarah walked us through. We will send that today. I do want to say though too, especially for colleges that are like starting soon. I know Niagara has already started. Some are you're starting in less than 2 weeks. If you want to have have a meeting with Sarah and or myself before you get started, before you first time you like compile this data for us, let us know, and we're happy, very happy to jump on a call, arrange a meeting to talk through sort of the specifics of your campus and of your program and how to approach what could potentially be slightly different on your campus with the data collection. So let us know. We're very happy and we would like to talk to you.
And I think one question we will ask is like, what is your academic term? Because I know some go by semesters, some quarters. You might have a different way that you're doing your cohort. And so just to understand that helps us get the timing of things right. And so we're on the same page.
There's another question, a follow-up question that just came in. There are 15 sections of some of these courses. Do we want them broken down for each? So that's no. I think in this case, I don't know how you're doing 15 sections, by the way, but I think in this case, we just want the total number of students in the course across the 15 sections together. But also if you can just note or tell us or email us about the fact that you have, you know, what will look like 100 students or more probably across this 15 sections, and that's how you're doing it, we'll just note that.
And can I say that's amazing? That is wonderful to hear.
One more question. Do you want us to report on the modality? Online, in person, synchronous? Oh, that's a really good question. Not thought about that. We will document that. Yes, we'll find a way to document that. That's a really good point that we have not actually built in, but we will.
You want to know that, yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
For that. One more question. For work-based learning, do you want us to only include who is providing internships or those with incumbent workers? Both, actually. We'll want to do both. Yes, we'll want to do both.
Yeah. And we might update that question to clarify that. And then you can have 2
Yep.
lists there.
Different sections will be taught by different instructors. Do you want to know that? Sarah?
I don't know at this time.
Yeah, we're not documenting then who the instructor is or who is teaching what, so I don't think we need to, unless you who's asking this question, Sheila, unless you think it's important for us to know.
Yeah.
So I would say this, we have standard things that we want to document for everyone. But then if there are specifics about your program that you think are important, will be important for us to know, we'll want to do that too. We're just not necessarily going to do it in the same like standard way. This is why it's going to be sort of we'll work with you individually, with each campus individually. to figure out what additional information, if any, is important to document.
And I think especially in kind of this first few months we have, if you like in that other category, if there's like, you probably want to know we're hybrid or we're this, or we have this many sections and we have, you know, it's only one instructor, or there's like 12 different instructors. Put that in there in the other, just so that we can start kind of collecting that and getting a better picture of what's going on. But I don't want to put pressure on. I mean, you can say there's a couple different instructors. I don't want names because I don't want that pressure of having names tied to anything.
What about support courses? For example, we have English 101 and DSP 1. Some students need a support course depending on their placement test score. Do you want this info? So if I understand correctly, this is not, so this English 101 is not going to be a part of the micro-credential, right? It's just going to be for those who need and would like that additional course. Is that right?
I think one thing to think about it, if it's needed in order to get into the micro-credential, because sometimes you need to take 101 English in order to actually get into a degree program, that could be a support course. So I would describe that in the other one, because that's, if it's just an additional thing outside of the micro-credential, we're not looking at that specifically, but if it's a support so that they can either be in the course or achieve in that course, then it could be a student support one. And if I'm being too vague, let me know. We can talk about it.
So we do realize, I'm just going to say this sort of a general statement that's probably not very useful. Maybe it is. We do realize that your campuses will run things very differently.
Yes.
So there will be questions that come up about, for your specific question, for your specific program. Sarah and I will work with you individually to figure out how to track that information, what to track and what makes most sense. So thank you for all of these questions. If we haven't addressed your question, we have not been able to provide you an exact response today, keep those questions and we'll address them with you individually.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions for today? This is not the last time we're talking to you, so.
These have been really helpful so far.
Mm-hmm.
Julie, it's Allison. In the chat, I had put a response back to the question with regard to the codes and whether there was an appropriate code. So in regards to the HEGIS, there is a code 2101, which is Community and Human Services. So that might be applicable. And then for the SIP, there is Developmental Service Worker, and that is 19.0710. So I think that someone who knows better than me should just take a look at those and see if those are the right ones, but that might be a place to get started if that's helpful.
Super, thank you. All right. If there, let's give one more minute for any additional questions for today. If there are none, I know we put aside an hour and a half, but we just wanted to make sure that we do have time for all of the questions today. So besides, it's always nice to give people 45 minutes back that they weren't expecting. So if there are no more questions today, Our next steps are send out materials from today, including that start worksheet. After that, what we'll probably do is Sarah and I will sort of contact you individually, individual emails, just to sort of get us all connected, and then start working with you individually as far as, you know, collecting a first round of data, but then also setting up meetings and phone calls if we need to set them up with you, with your campus, to make sure that everything is prepped and we're thinking of everything. And then there's one more question, is whether those codes will be sent in a summary. I noted the one, yes.
I
okay.
put them both in the
Yep.
Q&A, Julie, in response to that question. And again, someone that knows the codes better than I do should just double check, but I was at least giving you a starting off point.
Great. Okay, shall we call it a webinar then for today and wish everyone a pleasant remainder of their day and week?
Sounds good. I'm excited to get started with this. I think these will be wonderful programs here.
I agree. Thank you, everyone, for the work that you're doing on this. I think this will do a lot for the field and for the workforce in New York, and really position the state as a leader in this approach. So
Definitely.
Yeah, we're seeing an increased number of inquiries to OPW about which campuses are participating and how students can sign up. So we're sharing a lot of information. So I'm hoping that you're going to see full participation. So this is an exciting time for OPW, and we really appreciate the partnership with UMN and with SUNY.
okay. Thank you so much for joining us. Sarah and I promise that we will be very cognizant of your time and of what we're asking of you, since I know everybody is busy. So thank you again. We look forward to working with you and to doing some good things in New York.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.